at that time, I used to even download the report that WWE used to give to all of his all of the shareholders. And shareholders, you could be a shareholder in WWE since it is a public company, and since it became the public company that we know today. And I was seeing the statistics, how much it cost to run Raw, how much it were the salaries, and I started finding these gaps. And I was like, okay, no company is perfect. Let's run with it. Let's keep rolling with it. And the thing is that I kept rolling with it until Chris Benoit. Eddie Guerrero died, and that was the one that happened first. Eddie Guerrero died. Chris, you could see visually that Chris was a mess at that time. Emotionally, his best friend just died. So, but it was like when Eddie died, I went back to that same feeling of when Brian Pillman died, and it was really the shock. Too young, no explanation, another hotel room. And at that moment, there was this wrestler. I keep forgetting his name. I think it was Nowinski, Chris Nowinski, who used to make this. He was like this Harbor Bride kind of heel, and he started doing these studies. He was actually a top university student, and he was doing this research on wrestler concussions. And the thing is that with Eddie, it was a heart attack. I think with Brian was also a heart attack. There were rumors on both cases that they had heart conditions prior to being wrestlers since they were born. And I was like, yeah, but there's still a pattern here that I'm quite, I see it fishy. And then Chris Benoit dies, and that's the moment when I think everything exploded, because Chris Benoit died. That's the first thing that it wasn't a page. I was really reading wrestling news, and then all of a sudden I was gonna jump to read normal news, and they got all mixed up. I see wrestling news, Chris Benoit died, suicide is his house. 30-something. I was like, oh my God, his son, because he was really fond of his son. You know, in that time, we weren't so exposed as we are today, like Instagram and all that bullshit. But you could see, and there were pictures that the love that he had for his son, Daniel, and he'd take him everywhere. He behind the scenes seems like this huge family man. So the first thought that came to my mind when I read the headline, Chris Benoit dies, suicide, it was like, okay, what the fuck just happened? I was thinking about his kid, his wife, and then, no, they're dead too. I'm like, what the actual fuck? What the fuck? And I'm sorry to swear so much, to curse so much, but there's no context. There's no way to censor or put it on small words, because if Brian Pillman's dead, Owen's dead, and Eddie's dead, and between this there have been lots of other deaths, you know, Chris Candido, who died really young, and I'm saying like, okay, perhaps, and I've started like, and I'm not making this up. And then I decided to go back to the steroid scandal of the beginning of the 90s. And then dots started connecting with each other. To me, the death of Chris Benoit, as a Chris Benoit fan, was really... I couldn't even describe it. I just a couple of moments ago I described the traumatizing experience of seeing a human being actually leap from the roof of a stadium and plummeting to his death. And I cannot even describe that. I was like confused was one of the words. It was like someone that gave me a real because I was trying to remember the name that Ricky Banderas uses right now. one of my favorite wrestlers from here, from Puerto Rico. But it was when we used to watch Ricky Bandera, he used to give this nasty chair shots, and I felt like someone hit me with a chair made of diamonds, and that it broke my skull, because I wasn't in that week. It transcended to my personal life in the way that I wasn't even able to think properly, to function properly. It was a whole mess. And then seeing Chris Jericho with Larry King, John Cena with Larry King, the theme of steroids things calm down and say, fuck wrestling, fuck the business aspect, this is like a messed up world, I don't even want to know. And it wasn't like that, because I was still interested in how this human being, this excellent performer, came down to this point. And there was a little bit of a history of arguments between them, but come on, I'm not justifying you should never hit a woman by any circumstances, but between couples there's friction, there's gonna be arguments, and there's something that's life. But not to get to the point of I don't even remember if he strangled her or stabbed her. I do remember that he gave a lot of Xanax he sedated and drowned Daniel, and then he killed himself. It was really something really disturbing. And then the thing that hurt me the most this is when I started getting to the John Oliver level. Is when the results, there was this university in which his brain, Chris Benoit brains, was given to them so they could examine the brain. And the brain came out with the result being compared to the brain of an 84-year-old Alzheimer patient. And I know you have heard this comment, but I actually saw pictures of the MRI. I'm not a neurologist. I'm gonna get that out of the way. But the thing is that you could Google a normal MRI picture, and there was, for a brief time, because WWE is really sneaky on hiding things and really fast on hiding things from the public. And we're talking about a company that deals with a lot of multimedia, so they have pretty knowledge of that. So because I haven't seen the photos ever since. But for a while, there was pictures of Chris Benoit's MRI of his brain compared to the 84-year-old Alzheimer patient compared to a normal patient. And that thing looked like the moon, actually. It was really... It was really messed. You could see the difference. You didn't have to be a neurologist to tell that there was something really wrong on that one. And the thing is that I started seeing, okay, there's something really fucked up here. And I started, in that point, I decided, fuck wrestling. I want to know this history. I want to know about it. And that's when I started getting deeper into podcasts that they were starting at that time. I was getting deeper into shoot interviews, and I was hooked on shoot interviews. And I want to know what the hell happened, who called the shots, who said the decision. And then it started going out, and we're talking about, I don't know if this was 2008, something like that. But the thing is that from that point on, I started looking at wrestling, and it has problems. And the saddest thing I had to realize that WWE is not going nowhere. That's something that you're gonna hear here and many other podcasts. Is such a huge machine that it cannot be turned down. And if it gets turned down, let's say, for example, in a miracle, like in 10, 20 years by another company is going to absorb all of that, and it's going to perhaps do the same mistakes. And let's hope not, because that's the hopes that we have with AEW. That even farther from the fact that they gave us memorable matches and great entertainment, but I don't know if many hardcore wrestling fans could agree with me on this one, but the thing is that if you look out for the wrestlers in a better way, And I think it was, I don't know if it was Bruno Sammartino, the one that was highlighted in John Oliver's case, that it was helped by, no, it was Jake the Snake Roberts, actually. It was Jake the Snake Roberts who had to put a GoFundMe page to get his help with paying his medical bills. And it's like, there has never been a way to prove that Vince McMahon personally gave steroids to anyone, but the presence, and there have been lots of wrestlers that have shoot on steroids. That the thing is that they didn't use steroids to, not all of them using to buff up. You know, there was an example, Edge, who admitted to doing steroids, but it was to get that drive. And the thing is that what it is described, and what any points are all the points in the Chris Benoit murder-suicide point out that it was a roid rage, and when he realized what he had done, it turned out into a suicide. There's also the whole conspiracy theories, but they don't have base, they don't have like a solid ground of evidence, because even if we were talking about wrestling, something that you gotta know in this podcast, I like to talk with facts that had been checked with certain professionals. We could discuss a theory or something from the internet, but it's not like I'm gonna give. I'm not gonna put my heart on it. You know, we could make a discussion on it, but I'm not gonna put my heart on it. So the thing is that after the whole Benoit incident, it was like out in the public. There were wrestlers shooting, that we're 350 days on the road. And that was something that wasn't new. It started with the documentary of Wrestling with Shadows, but Wrestling with Shadows didn't highlight the steroids, cocaine, and like in the case of 350 days, like the whole swinger life and everything that comes between it. So the thing is that when we come up to date, and John Oliver decides to drop this bomb, it's kind of fishy, you know, to me, that he drops it exactly a week before WrestleMania. And I don't know, I've been a fan of, not only of John Oliver, I've been watching John Oliver since he was with Jon Stewart. And besides Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, you know, these are my media heroes. These are the people that I watch for references, that I watch, you know, this has been my icons. And they're really strategic on the way that they get their information out to the public. So I don't think it is like he decided, okay, WrestleMania is coming around, or WrestleMania is coming around the weekend, so let's fuck that up. And with such an emotional build-up and the breakthrough of the company, I think what John Oliver did, and many wrestlers and many people in the industry are gonna look at him, you're exposing, the fans see it as he's exposing something that we already knew, but it's good that the public knows the thing that these wrestlers go through before we start making judgment. Because the thing is that Chris Benoit got hell of a lot of judgment on the incident, and nonetheless. But the thing is that there were a lot of facts that were left outside, and many journalists started looking inside wrestling in a different way, because there's a lot of problems here. This is a multi-million-dollar, this is a billionaire company that does not have a retirement program. We're not, this is, and I complain about working in a call center. I can complain about working in a factory, or even Walmart for that matter. I have criticized debt spacing policies on my Spanish podcast, El Macedon podcast. And the thing is that WWE goes beyond that. These are really people that are giving almost their lives. Let's not forget Perro Aguayo. And that was something much worked. even way more coordinated than WWE, because the thing with WWE is that you can rehearse your match with another wrestler, but the thing is that you cannot do it into the level that it was being done when the unfortunate